Uh, hey everyone, it's your favorite spiritual warrior here, and today I want to talk about something which, if you're disabled, especially physically disabled, you're unable to get out a lot, and you like live with family or stuff like that, you probably know a lot about. Also, if you're a woman, and I feel, a very special kinship with my fellow women because of this, and that's emotional labor. What do I mean um with emotional labor? Well, what I mean by emotional labor are all and any of the activities involved in emotionally caring for someone. So, like listening to their problems or listening to them vent and offering advice or offering consolation and stuff like that. Um, and as I said, like, at least in the West and for men especially, this has all pretty much always been uh the assigned social responsibility of women. Uh, you know, and I know a lot of guys that are married, and yeah, pretty much they only have their wives or maybe therapists to talk to about these things. Uh, but disabled people are also the same because chances are if you are physically limited, you can't get out that much, you will also become that to your family members if you're disabled regardless of gender. And now, interestingly, though, I say that it's been sort of the social purview of women, and they're socialized to be that way. But for me personally, that hasn't been the case. Like in my experience, it's always been the men who have been there for me emotionally for the most part. Even if they worked. The women in my life, and it probably has a lot to do with my immigrant background, right? Like I originally came from a pretty wealthy Guatemalan family, but then my parents immigrated to the US. They got divorced for the most part. Uh we stayed with our mom, right? But mom was out working. Um and honestly so was dad for the time they were together, but it's like, she had to project an image to us of stability and confidence and what we would colloquially call stoicism, even when that wasn't the case. And with a lot of women of color, you and immigrant women, you see the same sort of thing because there is no um sort of traditional male figure there once dad leaves. But I eventually did uh end up moving back with my dad as a single father, which is a story that I've told a few times on this channel. But I mean, my dad definitely, he's, almost in his 70s, and he's definitely a product of his time and culture. Guatemalan, uh, like machista, patriarchal culture and stuff in a lot of ways. But at the same time, again, I gotta say, my dad was extremely sensitive. Like, He was never afraid to cry at movies, or if something was really upsetting him, he always cried. Now, he also did the standard and really kind of the only acceptable male thing in society, which is to get mad. He did that a lot too, but like he also was never ever afraid to show his sensitive side at all. And once again, I explained the context as to why my mom was the opposite of that. So it's not any shade at my mom or anything like that, but my mom and other women around me weren't really like that. Um so I guess what I'm trying to say is that from an early age, that emotional labor, those techniques became my duty as a disabled person. I was always a person that my family members went and came and talked to about their problems and stuff like that. Excuse me. They always sought me out, and I'm like, I'm happy to do it, but at the same time, I realize that it doesn't get enough recognition. Like, as a guy, I'd like all guys watching this to just think about, like, what would it be like if you didn't have your girlfriend or your wife to to you know come home and vent to and talk to about your problems, let off some steam. um Imagine if you didn't have that, who else would you have, right? um so yeah, I just hope that if you watch this, whoever does the emotional labor in your relationships or family, that you are able um to you know appreciate them a little bit more and respect them a little bit more, and to all of the men that played that role for me growing up and still do currently. um I'd like to thank them, and if you are a man and you do that, thank you. Thank you for your service to the enrichment of the human experience of your fellow human beings, your fellow men and women and people and all that jazz. Like, you don't realize how much work you're doing. And to women also. All right, see you guys.